Welcome to Ordo Militaris Radio TV. We welcome Brother Alexis Bonello to the show to discuss the CIA bribing Congress.
Thank you, AJ, for having me on, and for this follow-up coverage on the Deep State CIA, this group within the CIA that's used the authority of the CIA to run their own operations for the last 70 years and has the objective of promoting the agenda of the Masonic banks in New York City.
Mhm.
And the other day we did a report on the CIA and how they'd wash money through the Vatican banks in a drug connection. So we're going to follow that up today with how that money's washing into Congress. So
Yeah.
it's really, we talked about Gladio, how Gladio was founded by a group of Nazis incorporated into the CIA, who stole vast quantities of morphine from the Nazis' Third Reich and sold it to raise money for their secret ops in Western Europe. And morphine is a refined product of opium. So, well, what do you know? In 57, what takes place in Palermo?
That mob deal that was told to the Italian government to not worry about and look the other way. And then we have the opium trafficking.
Yeah, the four big Italian mob families got together and make a contract to import heroin in the USA. That was 57. And well, in almost the same years, where does opium start getting? You got to grow it somewhere. So,
So in that same time frame, in the mid-50s, opium was never grown in Afghanistan until the mid-1950s, the same date as that deal with the mob.
yeah, I'll point out that in 57, Avery Dulles became head of the CIA. Coincidence, maybe. The Iranian government was overthrown. There's talk that CIA fiddled with the papal election in 58 too. But how does opium production in Afghanistan grow with American influence?
Well, it was said that only Afghanistan could grow it, but then it also said the neighbor, Iran, was banned from growing it. So why couldn't both countries grow it? Have even more.
You got to wipe out competition here. But after Bush invades Afghanistan, even though his plan for invasion is prepared before 9/11, does that shut down drug trade in Afghanistan?
No, it skyrockets fourfold, fivefold. Huge numbers.
And the U.S. did a lot the military is charged to destroy these crops. But what did the press find out? It was Dr. Mansfield. He discovered what were they actually doing?
That they were helping the drug trade, helping the warlords, and making sure that the drug trafficking was not stopped but increased.
The CIA had a real good, nice, friendly habit with President Karzai and a lot of these drug lords. What did they do every month?
They brought bags of cash to Karzai's office at the president residence in Kabul.
Some of these warlords were bribed as much as how much?
They were bribed. Hold on, folks. I gotta get back up here. They were bribed. I think, what was it, $70 million? I think it was, I believe it was 70.
Some of them got $100,000 a month, but yeah. one study found that $40 billion we
40
sent
billion.
to Afghanistan to help the locals, as much as 10% of it went to the drug trade or supporting drug production.
Mhm.
So these drugs are, the opium's made in Afghanistan. It goes through all these puppet little countries in Central Asia that are all friends of the CIA. Goes through Turkey, goes through the Balkans, goes through Kosovo, ends up in the United States, gets processed by the Sicilian mafia.
Yeah. And it was this, and we do know through the FBI whistleblower and translator Cybele Edmonds, through her work in listening to the wiretaps that the FBI had at the time, that they could listen to make sure nothing was going on that shouldn't have been going on. They found out the American Turkish Council was boasting about giving the Speaker of the House, let me get his name here, Dennis Hazard, Republican out of Illinois, suitcases of drug money delivered to his house in Chicago.
He got behind passing a bill on the Armenian genocide. They wanted to dissuade him from it. They didn't succeed, but they had offered him as much as how much to stop that bill?
$500,000.
And they not only bribed him, they bribed someone in the State Department, didn't they?
Yeah.
He'd come by every week or every month, and he'd collect a nice little envelope, didn't he?
Yeah, about $7,000 a month. It was for information, secrets, and yeah, just information and secrets of weapons and everything.
It's kind of unbelievable the CIA would allow the Turkish Council to do this kind of espionage on U.S. soil, unless the Turks had something on the CIA. Same thing, too. We found out that nuclear triggers, the technology to build a nuclear trigger, was given to Pakistan or smuggled out through two Jews that worked in the White House under Bush. And why did Pakistan have that leverage to get that technology? They know something going on in Afghanistan. But that was the case of Fogo and his lifelong male buddy there. Was it Wenkel? Was the name?
Let's see. It was Wilkes, Brent Wilkes.
Brent Wilkes. That's right. They both were best men for each other, and they both named their first name after each other, and they both shared a drinker's booth at a club in D.C. That's pretty cozy. But they were both also involved in bribery. Who did they bribe?
So, Kyle Dusty Fogo was the CIA's executive director, number 3 man. And he was bribing the California Republican, Randall Duke Cunningham, and of about $2.4 million in bribes for arranging defense contracts.
And for whom were these contracts?
His best buddy, Brent Wilkes.
I know, but he was going to supply services to what entity in the U.S. government?
Let's see here. For the CIA.
CIA. So you have the third top official in the CIA just walks over to Congress to bribe them, and no one thinks that's anything strange in the CIA. That shows a picture of corruption. And while they bribe the president of Kabul on a monthly basis, so that shows the CIA has this project. But what I don't understand about, they both went to prison, Fogo and Wenkel?
Wilkes.
Wilkes, both Wilkes and Fogel in prison. They won't get out for, I think, till 2023, 2024. So we're not talking about allegations here. They were found guilty. Evidently, they were doing a kind of bribery that they were caught. How much bribery is not caught? But my question is, if drug production's gone up 400% in Afghanistan through all the years we've been there, and there's so much corruption going on in Afghanistan, why hasn't, and that's 3 administrations, why hasn't Congress done anything about it?
And to get these defense contracts and get all this spending, you have to go through both houses of Congress.
So you need constant control in both houses.
And to get that money for the bribes of the warlords, the Karzai, the everything, it had to be coming from the Congress.
At least either that or the drug trade. Yeah, it does kind of imply that the CIA has developed some kind of fail-safe system of bribing Congress. I always wondered how these people can go to Congress and then retire with tens of millions of dollars. You know, where does all that money come from? Just working on a Congress salary? It's just hard to believe. I'll mention that Hassert was later convicted for being a serial pedophile.
Yeah.
And so for accepting bribes to cover up a pedophilia scandal, let's be accurate. I don't want to damage the man's reputation any more than he's done it himself.
Yeah.
One interesting fact in our investigation on this, AJ, it struck me that the CIA was involved in flipping elections to keep Karzai in power in Afghanistan. And that one of these key operatives, Fogel it was, he was the CIA chief in Frankfurt, Germany, where these server farms are, involved in flipping the U.S. election. Well, I think you can just connect the dots. But
and you found something out from last night from a tipster we got.
Yeah, we got a tipster. So I don't want to be detailed because I don't want to put the tipster's life in danger. So I'll speak in generalities. But he knows several people who worked in the CIA in the 60s, now retired. They all told him that the CIA assassinated JFK, that it was their organization that did it, planned it. And from what I gathered from the tipster, is all the people involved were Freemasons, high level, 33rd degree. And so this confirms what we reported yesterday, that it was most likely a Masonic plot to get Kennedy, because Kennedy was going to break the power of the Freemasons in the military. He was going to probably clean up this CI-SIG group in the CIA. But this is my point of view as an Italian American. Most people don't know, but JF Kennedy mafia. His grandfather made tons of money running liquor during Prohibition, or his father did. And the thing about the Irish mafia of Boston is they're at war with the Italian mafia in Providence, Rhode Island, which is a nearby city. And so much so that when I go walk in South Boston, I, an Italian friar, and they'd see me, they think I was an agent of the mafia out of Providence. So it was like, you can't even show an Italian face in a pub down there. That's how bad it is. But I know this, that if Kennedy found out that the CIA in '57 had made a deal with the Sicilian mafia to import heroin in the United States so that they could make money to run black ops for CI-SIG, that would have been the end of them. His brother, Robert Kennedy, Attorney General, would have shut them down on the spot. You would have had a lead hammer fall on the whole organization. So as soon as he started moving against both the Freemasons and the CIA, I think they realized that he was just too risky to leave alive. And I think that is the full explanation of the motivation of why John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And this is not just an academic point of history, because if a de facto drug cartel that calls itself the CIA has assassinated presidents, and we talked earlier about how they probably assassinated Patton to keep him from running against Eisenhower. What's to keep them from assassinating another president?
Mm-hmm.
These people are the enemies of the American people. They are not an American institution. They are a Masonic Nazi institution. They are the enemies of the state. They are the enemies of the people. And we have to wake up to what's really going on in our country.
Yeah. Now, we would like more tipsters to come forward for informations on how the CIA is bribing Congress to get more detailed information, and any other information on our recent investigative programs on CIA, the Vatican, all that. You can go to ordo-militaris.net and leave a comment there, or I do have a Proton email for the radio station, ordo-militarisradio@protonmail.com, and that is totally secure and encrypted. You can email that. I'll post it for you for tipsters. It's as my favorite Scottish actor who did that movie Law Abiding Citizen, who took on the corrupt Philadelphia courts. It's time to bring the corrupt system down. Restore and save America.
This is a duty of American citizens. I think we can realize now that the federal government is completely corrupt. It's almost completely now taken over by the deep state. The mere fact that President Trump has to rely on the 301st or 308th Military Intelligence Battalion and not on the FBI. The FBI says there's no evidence of electoral corruption, but they're going to investigate Trump for accusations he received bribes to pardon people. That's just ridiculous. Why didn't they investigate Obama for that? So it's pretty clear the federal government now is complete in the hands of foreign interests, not American people, and that it is the enemy of the American people. And the people in the states, you need to get your state legislatures to realize that the federal government has to either be removed or totally rebuilt from the ground up. And everyone who's ever worked in it needs to be fired and blacklisted. It's becoming an organization that's terrorizing us. It's a criminal organization. How many young people are destroyed by the drug trade? And one thing my tipster told me that really frightens him is that says the FBI and the CIA always used to investigate one another, and that kept them relatively honest. But 7 years ago under Obama, he got them to work together so they don't investigate one another anymore. They only investigate their mutual enemies. So I think that points out that we're at a point where no return. We can't work of saving the system. It has to totally be rebuilt from the ground up. And the American people need a second American Revolution, at least in the moral sense that we can't stop voting the system. We have to stop listening to the two-party system. We have to stop listening to the mainstream media. They're all part of the system of control. You got to elect the common, ordinary American citizens from your own town that you've known your whole life and have never worked in the federal government. They're going to be the honest people because they're not controlled.
Yep. I think tomorrow we could do the Karl Marx and the bankers of New York, if you want to.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting story. How I always thought Karl Marx was from Europe and supported by people from Europe, and that Marxism is from Europe.
So stay tuned for that, folks. And this is Ordo Militaris Radio TV signing off. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.